Are we good to start, Captain or Angela?
Yeah, the only one that's missing now is Tony, and I haven't heard from him, so hopefully he'll join us later. Okay.
All right. Well, let's call the meeting to order. We'll start out with the roll call.
All right, very good. Chair Wirtz.
Here.
Vice Chair Yant.
Here.
Tony Bevel is absent. Dorian Leibel.
Here.
Ruth Ann Rusnak.
Here.
Yay. Mike Smith.
Here.
And Chris West.
Here.
All right, very good. Thank you.
Good, thanks. Okay, so next is the approval of the minutes. Does anybody have any corrections or anything on the minutes they want to bring up? Okay, if nothing, I'll take a motion.
I move that the minutes be approved as submitted.
Second.
Okay, all in favor, say aye.
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 And all opposed? None. Okay, so we'll move into business. Starting with the issues and complaints, we got the tracking sheet to review. Is there anything on the tracking sheet that's not on the agenda that anybody has questions about or wants to talk about? I think didn't we have it? One of the issues was a complaint about the roundabout at Langer Farms a while back. Or we just talked about it for another reason.
I think we talked about it, but the city council is already addressing that, right, Julia?
Yeah.
I believe that's correct. Yes.
I was just curious. I was thinking about it the other day. I thought that I thought they were doing that this spring. I was just curious if there was an update on when that work might be done.
Yeah, there was a little bit of a delay. I'm not sure, just a variety of things, but I believe that they're going to be doing the work fairly soon. They went out for bids or contractors, and so I think it's actually going to be happening in the very near future. I don't have the exact date. I could find out from Craig Sheldon.
Oh, that's fine. That's good. Thank you. All right, so we'll move on for the tracking sheet then and go on to the next item there, number 2020-012. And it's like maybe we have a status update.
So where that one is right now is it's over at Public Works. And we're just waiting for them to get the lights installed. I have not heard about the extra pole. But we're going to go with the LED lighting. So I'm just waiting to hear when that's going to happen.
Okay.
That's my update.
Anybody have anything they want to ask before we move on? All right, so 2021-002. It's another status update.
So that one, let me get my notes here. So they've moved the lighting or the signage. So basically the speed sign from 99W to Hawksview has been relocated to within 320 feet of the property line, which is in the school zone ahead. In westbound from Hawksview has been relocated as well. The radar sign is going to stay put. What they're going to do is they're going to just replace the school zone yellow to a white and just make it a standard speed zone traffic sign, flashing sign. It's became too cumbersome to pull that up and move it to within a school zone. So they're just leaving that one put.
Makes sense to me.
Yeah, I noticed that the school zone sign had been moved, so.
Has that been resolved enough? Do you guys think that we could close that one out, or we want to wait until the last piece of work gets done there?
The last piece being changing the yellow to white sign.
Yeah.
The way we've been doing is waiting, so I guess we probably should.
I'm fine with that.
Yeah, it's ordered, so probably by next meeting, that should be 100% go.
All right. Any other questions, comments on that one before we move on? All right, so the first of the three new ones here, 2021-004. This is the truncated domes at this senior center entrance. Is this one, Captain? You or someone from staff wants to give a quick debrief on your thoughts?
If Bob's on here, he's more of an expert on that. It's basically the old version of that. And they're just saying to replace it with the new version, the yellow version of it. I'm not sure the wording Bob talks about.
I briefly looked at all three of the items, but I really haven't dug into them as of yet. So if we're going to replace ADA textured ramps, we're going to have to look at it relative to the full thing. So be aware that anytime you do something with a single ramp, you have to look at the whole area around it and make sure it all meets ADA. So that's just the code. But right now I have not had time to go out, investigate, and check it out, see what it is that really needs to be done. I know that the existing stamped concrete texture is not ADA compliant currently, and that the yellow truncated domes is what should be in there if they're going to meet our current standards. But I don't know if the surrounding sidewalk area and ramps and everything meet ADA standards to where all we have to do is replace the truncated domes.
Ruthann, you've got your hand up there.
I do indeed. I wasn't quite sure I understood where they wanted to do this. They say the driveway to the senior center, and as I go down Sherwood Boulevard, there aren't any truncated domes at any other driveways along Sherwood Boulevard. Are they really required, or were they referring to the entrance to the facility itself? I asked Maya, and she does not know who turned this in or what this is about. So are they required at the driveway entrance off Sherwood Boulevard?
I believe the way I read it is it's the entrance to the senior center.
Oh, okay. So
which
the
is the
entrance to
sidewalk area.
the entrance to the building itself then. Okay.
Correct, off of Sherwood
It says-
Boulevard.
Yeah, it says entrance to the driveway to the senior center. Is what it says. So I was unclear. So that the comments earlier were that what's there in front of the senior center may not be fully up to code. Is that ADA code? Is that correct?
That is correct. And if you change one aspect of it, that opens up the door for everything else have to be checked.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a little confused. I thought that the issue was the 2 ramps at the curb returns right there on Sherwood Boulevard.
So I did talk to the requester, and that was my understanding too, Jason, was that where you're talking about right there at on the street for crossing the street there, or the driveway for the senior center.
Yeah, because there isn't a crosswalk there.
So I can jump in here and share a little ADA info. Every public street is a crosswalk or crossing and requires accessible curb ramps. Driveways are treated like public streets if they have the traffic like a public street, or if in this situation they look like a public street. So like a residential driveway would not have those detectable warning surface. But if this was built today, those curb returns would have ramps and would have the detectable warning surface. Feel free to correct me if you think that's not how Sherwood would do it, Bob. But in this situation, my question was going to be, how does the city of Sherwood respond to accessibility complaints? I have experience when I used to work in the city of Newburgh, and so I know how they used to deal with it. So I'm just curious how the city typically responds, because I'm sure this isn't the first time someone's brought up an accessibility issue.
No, we have quite a few accessibility requests. Some of them are even on private residence, where they want to come out and have access via ADA to sidewalks and to street levels on in front of their private residence, which we basically deal on a case-by-case basis and try and work something out. In this case, when you're talking about the entry into the senior center, that drive aisle, and there is actually a two-way lane. You can have 2 cars basically pass each other. It's not like a driveway drop. It's an at grade, so the pavement from the drive aisle actually meets with the pavement surface of the Sherwood Boulevard, if my memory serves me correctly. Again, if we start changing one aspect of that, it opens the door up to all ADA standards, and that's what we'd have to review it by. So that type of drive aisle, I would consider it sort of like a private road, but because it does, it's at grade with the Sherwood Boulevard and the pavement is sort of contiguous to it, I would treat it as a public crossing. That would be my perspective of it. Cars can enter it, multiple cars can enter it at a time, and they're in 2 lane. So I would treat it that way. So it's not like a driveway drop, which is, it's a different configuration where the sidewalk actually acts as part of the drive thing. This would change it a lot. But the basic point is, if I view it as a ADA change of textured surface for the truncated domes, I have to check everything else along with it because that's the requirements.
Thanks, Bob. Dorian, you got your hand up.
Yeah, just to clarify, I just want to make sure I'm looking at the right spot here. On my Google Maps, it shows the entrance to the senior center as being called North Sherwood Drive. Is that the right spot where he's talking about the sidewalk ends, and then there's just the old concrete ramp to go down to the street level and then back up on the other side, and it's Sherwood Boulevard and North Sherwood Drive that enters the senior center. Is that correct?
I don't have have my normal system up and running right now. I'm working from home, but I would assume from memory that that is correct. It has
Yes,
a name, but it's not a public street as such.
gotcha.
The address for the senior center is off Sherwood Boulevard.
Gotcha.
Ruth Ann?
Yep. I did speak with Maya, and she suggested, she wondered if there is a blind person who walks that area, and she wondered if maybe that was the person who made this request. And I suppose that's something that we could consider if it's someone who's blind and wants to be sure they know where they're going there, that should be part of our consideration. But it looks like it would be fairly costly to change it. If we change it there, then we have to change all the other ones as well, it sounds like.
So my experience with this sort of thing in the past is that you know, on a general basis, cities should be making improvements to accessibility components of the public infrastructure throughout the system, kind of as an ongoing basis as projects and funding allows. In addition to that, I think that cities should encourage a good relationship and communication with the folks in our community that would benefit from accessibility improvements. And one of those ways to do that is that when someone who would benefit from that type of improvement brings up a specific area that, you know, likely they travel and, you know, they see an excessive, a barrier, that should be a very high priority for the city to work with that individual specifically to hear their concerns and try and help and fix that, remove that barrier for them. And obviously that has to be balanced with budgets, but I don't see our role in any way to deny someone's request for removing an accessible barrier, a non-accessible barrier. And I would never support denying someone's request to remove an accessible barrier. I think I'd always just refer this on to the city staff to evaluate and remove the barrier as their funding allows. And I'd also probably want to ask the city staff to coordinate and communicate with the individual specifically and go out there and talk with them and hear their concerns and hear other things that, you know, the folks that would benefit from the removal of barriers, you know, they can share so much information that you might not otherwise know, and that focused those focused repairs are sometimes better than just the generic you know, ramp replacements that we do as part of projects that may not have anybody that directly benefits from it at that time. So anyways, those are my thoughts on this sort of this type of issue.
So let me try a motion that we recognize, the committee recognizes this as an important request and asks staff to do the thorough review of what's involved and report back, but just so we have an assessment. But I think I agree with Jason and what he said, that should be put in the queue. but I would like Bob's assessment, full assessment first.
I think that was a motion.
I'll second that motion.
Anybody have any discussion, comments, thoughts?
So will the city go by street and look for these type of concerns to make those improvements?
Bob, does the city of Sherwood have a I'm blanking on the name right now, the transition plan, accessibility transition plan? Or has the city done a evaluation citywide?
Not of, to my knowledge, what you're asking for is whether or not Public Works understands which crossings are substandard. I would say that would be a Public Works thing. The engineering department does not have a listing of every deficient intersection. And I think that what you're looking for is some sort of programmatic replacement. Again, I think that's, again, going to have to go through Public Works. They don't need the engineering department to do a programmatic replacement of curb ramps to meet ADA standards. But I do think that they do have a listing of all intersections that currently have ramps that do not meet ADA.
All right, well, I guess let's vote on the motion on the table, which to try and repeat what you said, which is essentially to have the city do an evaluation of accessibility evaluation of these two curb ramps, and if they find them to be not up to current standards, to put it in the queue and to remove the accessibility barrier as they are able to. I stumbled over that one, but did I get it?
Yeah, I think that the only thing is that I think we should, my intent is agreeing with you that this should be fixed, but until we fully say fix it needs to be in the queue, we should let Bob do the assessment so we know what's involved.
Okay, so all in favor, say aye.
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 And any opposed? All right. So I guess I kind of want to add, this is kind of a accessibility and ADA is kind of a hot topic in my everyday life, career wise. So I think that I guess I'd be interested to hear, and this totally be offline, but I'd like to hear more about how the city approaches accessibility throughout the city within the public right of way. And if the city doesn't have like a defined plan for bringing curb ramps and stuff up to code, I think it's extremely important that listening to the community and doing focused projects to improve accessibility in the areas that those people benefit from them the most, I think is the best thing that we could do as a city. So I don't really think it's our place to get in the middle of that, but I do think that's really important. And I suppose there is a safety element to it, especially someone thought so when they sent it in. So. All right, well, let's move on to the next one, 2021-005. stop signs, speed bumps, crosswalks at 99 and Crooked River Lane.
So this one is off Old Highway 99 and Crooked River Lane. We had one earlier, I believe, just down the street about that flashing speed sign. That's been fixed. And now we have this issue with the schools. We did a focus patrol up there with some of the officers, and I believe you got copies of that. And under one of the comments that one of the officers made was there is a painted crosswalk on the north side of the intersection, but no stop sign. A high number of children use the crosswalk. There is also a high traffic during school days. There is also no stop sign northbound on Heron Lakes at Crooked River. This officer's opinion is there should be a four-way stop there based on what he observed during the focus patrol. He spent a total of 128 hours over there and gave out 2 warnings.
To clarify, just to clarify his statement, he's suggesting that a four-way stop should be at the intersection of Heron Lakes and Crooked River, correct?
That's what his statement says. Yeah, northbound Heron Lakes at Crooked River. Should be a four-way stop.
And that's a 1 block north of the old Highway 99 West area. I went over there and looked at that. And interesting, they didn't recommend any kind of a stop sign on Old 99 West, where the traffic would be coming a lot faster.
The individual's request was not for stop signs at that intersection either, was it? Wasn't it just focused at the 99 and Crooked River intersection?
No, it does say there should be at least a stop sign on Southwest Old Highway 99 at the intersection of Crooked River Lane.
Right, but we were just talking about adding stop signs to Crooked River Lane and Heron Lakes, which is a different intersection.
Correct. That's just what the officer stated.
So
Right now, is there a stop sign if you're heading west on Crooked River towards the school? Is there a stop sign there, or is it just an intersection?
There is no stop sign.
Okay.
there's a stop sign on Heron Lakes and Street View, Google Street View. I'm not sorry, Heron Lakes. I'm sorry. There's a stop sign on Crooked River.
Yes.
I'm getting all these streets mixed up. Sorry.
And there's also a stop sign coming out of the school.
Yes.
On that corner of Crooked River and 99, there's not a stop sign.
I don't see one on my street view, and I don't recall seeing one when I went over there earlier.
I don't know if you guys can see this, but that's Crooked River and Highway 99, Old Highway 99.
Huh.
And that's the street view shows a stop sign there. Maybe it got wiped out.
It's on the side street, not the 99 street.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
not on. It's not
Right.
on 99. It's
Yeah,
It's on.
it's
Crooked.
for Crooked River.
Yeah.
And there's a school crossing crosswalk there too that if anybody that everybody should pay attention to in the school zone. So why are people just blowing through that next intersection? Is that what it is, Captain?
So we've got a couple complaints about speeding on Old Highway 99, and based when 99 gets backed up, a lot of motorists use Old Highway 99 as a cut through. So there is a high volume at times on Old Highway 99, and they do speed. We've had focus patrols out there before for speeding complaints. But yeah, that's a pretty straight, long straightaway there with no stop sign.
So I think it's very reasonable that we put a stop sign there. I stopped by there this morning and observed, saw, some pretty good rates of speed of vehicles. And like we said, it's a school area. I spoke to one of the residents, and real responsible person, city employee. So, and he confirmed, yeah, cars go blowing by.
Any other thoughts? Okay, I'll go. I think that we need to remember that when we first started this committee, I believe we said that we don't install stop signs to control speed. So I think it's good to keep that in mind. Not that this doesn't that a stop sign shouldn't be installed there, but we shouldn't do it to control speed. I would support requesting staff to do a stop sign warrant analysis to determine if the number of vehicles and pedestrians at the intersection would warrant three-way stop control.
So
Well,
I just, are you done, Jason? Sorry.
Yeah.
I just, using Street View, went further west and looked back towards the school, and there's one of those flashing school zone speed signs just before the neighborhood starts, where it's still what I'd have to say is the semi-rural without the sidewalk. So we're already jumping on them for speed with a flashing sign, less than a block away from that intersection, or a block. But I'm curious. I am, with the amount of hours that PD was out there. If he's suggesting putting something in one block away from the intersection that was flagged, I'm scratching my head why that is. I'm a little confused.
I didn't understand that either.
Is this a situation that might be exacerbated a little bit because of Brooklyn being in turmoil right at the moment? Would that impact traffic through there?
what the gentleman said right there on the corner of Crooked River Lane and Old Highway 99, that neighbors have filed numerous complaints. So for what that's worth, and like we just mentioned, it's a long straightaway from Brookman up to the school. And again, it's a school area. I think that deserves special consideration.
And we've had a lot of construction with the high school at the intersection that backed stuff up for many, many months when they were working on Sunset and 99 that everybody was trying to avoid.
This is Bob. Okay, I'm going to have to step in here for a little bit and say that what I'm hearing is you want one solution to fix two problems, and that doesn't quite work. Again, stop signs do not control speed. That's not what they're designed to do. That's not what they're supposed to do. Otherwise, we're going to be putting stop signs all over every city street, every intersection, because it's the only way you can guarantee that somebody doesn't have a complaint about somebody speeding down their road. We need to do something that is different for the people who are traveling on Old Highway 99 to emphasize their inability, apparently, to drive the speed limit. Stop signs are to control turn movements and to allow pedestrian movements. With that, I would say, yeah, Jason's right. We need to go out and do a warrant analysis of the intersection to determine, okay, does it have the loading? What is the loading there at that point in time? And does it warrant stopping traffic to allow pedestrians to cross safely? If we're trying to control speed, then I would suggest that we look at something other than that, which is maybe the flashing sign that tells you your speed is too high, rather than just school zone flashing. Actually doing some of the things that you've suggested. Or we could do something traffic mitigation wise, the traffic control devices, which are designed to slow traffic down. But hence not trying to use stop signs as a way of controlling traffic speed. So I would suggest you look at maybe look at this a different way and separate the two items. We'll do the crossing warrants. We'll see how that comes out. And if the crossing warrants show that the traffic and the ped loading is sufficient, then we can work with putting in the appropriate signage for that. But I would suggest that maybe you look at something else to deal with the speed issue and controlling people's habits on speeding.
So what is that? How do you control people speeding when you have neighbors say that, hey, there's a problem there?
Well, there
And
are
the
a lot of,
police, there's a problem there.
the city council did pass a resolution which gave you a whole toolbox full of traffic control devices that are geared towards reduction of speed.
Yes, I'm gonna have to review that toolbox again.
Well, you always have to go back to the toolbox. That's your tools. Those are your tools that you're supposed to draw upon.
So do
and we're trying to use the appropriate
in the toolbox.
We're trying to use the appropriate tool for the appropriate condition that we're trying to resolve. I'm saying you've got two different things going on here. One is pedestrian crossing, the other one is speed. Let's analyze them and work with them under that condition. You work with the pedestrian crossing as a separate item, and I will do a warrants analysis for that. And then we look at the speed condition. How do we deal with that?
Well, the captain has said that, yeah, he's sent officers there, and officers said, yeah, there's a problem. So
I don't disagree with him, but how he's saying to address it is basically he's throwing an inappropriate solution to a dual situation. And that's just because I don't think he has a complete handle, or the officer doesn't have a complete handle on what is traffic control. How do we deal with it?
Yeah,
that's part of what I'm supposed to do, is give you guidance on that.
I think the officer didn't offer a suggestion for the intersection of Crooked River Lane and Highway 99, but offered a separate issue that's not really part of this issue, which is that there should be, he's suggesting a four-way stop at Crooked River and Heron Lakes, which isn't really part of this issue. But,
right.
Tony, this is where, if it seems like it's been identified as an issue with speed, and so now we get to decide if it warrants, or if we want to make a decision that would say, suggest to put in speed cushions, those long speed humps, or you could do increased patrol. You could do the speed feedback signs that tell you what speed you're driving. There's a number of things that was on that list that we did when we first started the committee. This is that sort of scenario where we recognize there's a problem. It seems it's been identified, and then if we feel it's necessary, we would recommend that something be done, such as that. Ruth Ann, you've had your hand up for a while. Well,
yes, thank you. It seems, I think Bob kind of covered what I was thinking in his comments there. I was thinking of the safety of the children crossing at that crosswalk. I don't know if they use any kind of human crossing guards for traffic control at the peak times there, like they do on Sherwood Boulevard. But with the traffic coming from the country road straight up to the school and not noticing that they need to slow down, for that reason, to me, a stop sign might be appropriate. And then before that, the speed hump. But the person writing the request says there is a speedometer reader that does nothing. And I'm not sure if that's our mobile unit that's there, or if it's one that's the kind for the school zones. I'm not sure. I don't think there's one of those coming from the direction of the country part of Old Highway 99.
So yeah, it's just outside the city limits. It's a permanent one. And it just
I didn't go that far then.
Yeah, it's coming into the city.
Ruth Ann, it's just like the one that's on Sherwood Boulevard, that they're not moving.
Right. Okay, I just didn't see it then because I didn't go far enough down Old Highway 99.
It's just before where it goes from no sidewalks to the development with sidewalks. That's where it is.
Okay.
Dorian?
Okay, so I looked at the street view from Brookman all the way up to the school, and in my view or opinion, one of the easiest ways that you're going to be able to control speed there is to put up an actual speed limit sign, because there is no speed limit sign from from Brookman all the way up to the school, besides the school zone thing that says 20, school speed 20 when flashing. So people on that road have no idea what the speed limit is. If it's 25, if it's supposed to be 25, put up a sign that says speed limit 25. That's regulatory. That will keep people going slower.
So, Captain, since it's outside the city, that's county, would be a request to the county. Is that it?
Yes. If we want one down by Brookman, that's county.
Dorian, take care of that.
If that's we're still in Washington County there, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
It's got to be right close to the border, hey?
Yes.
So yeah, I think that would probably be a good, at least partial solution, because even like myself, I drive everywhere. If I got on that road and there was no speed sign anywhere, and you're in a country road, you assume 55. If you're on a country road with no speed limit sign.
Good point.
I would assume that was not true when I got to the residential area, but apparently people are not doing so.
Well, and if you, based on what I'm seeing there, you come into the residential area pretty hot. So
yes.
you're slamming on the binders pretty quickly there if you come in and all of a sudden it's like, wow, there's a school. And I know people that drive through there all the time would know the road, but I rarely drive through there. So I would be like, it would be a wow thing for me. I'd be like, oh man, and immediately slow down. But yeah, it's you can probably, before you get there, get up to speed pretty good.
And the complainant says our dog was already hit by a car on Highway 99. So, I mean, dogs can run fast, but I don't think they can outrun a car.
And kids don't run that fast.
I'll, since Washington County, I will email the traffic engineers and ask them if there's something we can do to look at that, of course.
Yeah, because the sign that has the radar on it only lists school zone 20. There's nothing 25, so they're just going to worry about it when it's school zone time. And the big concern is at that intersection is where all the sports fields are and people come out with kids playing sports.
How far away from that sign is the Sherwood city limit? Is it right like within a few feet, or is there a buffer?
So it looks like the city limits is just before that cemetery, that first turn in of the cemetery coming into the city. The map I looked at, that's roughly where it is, just down a little ways from that entrance.
Wow, that's because the 20-mile-an-hour school zone is 10 feet past that gravel road into the cemetery.
Okay.
Or at least the one, is there two roads in, Captain?
Yeah.
Looks like it. So it's right next to the one that's closest to the school, not the one that's back towards Brookman.
Yeah.
I think I'm going to have to, Bob, I think I'm going to have to talk to the county, find out what they've got that roadway section posted, what the posted speed is, and then find out if, is it 45 or is it 35? If it's 45, you're going from 45 to 20 fairly quickly. If it's 35 to 20, that might be more doable, but we can't actually post a speed limit on a section of road, number one, that we don't have jurisdiction over. And number two, that we haven't gone through, and if it is already a designated speed limit, we'll have to go to the state and get a traffic study for speed reduction on that section of roadway. So let me go back to the county and see what they've got in their transportation people and see what that roadway is really listed, that section of road that's outside the city limits, and see what we can do there. I think part of that is, what other options do we have that maybe we can do something to actually reduce the speed on that section of road that's outside the city limits and outside the city's jurisdictional control, but make it more in line with the residential area of 25 miles an hour. If we can get it down to 35, then the transition from 35 to 25 shouldn't be that big a shock. And anybody who wants to speed coming into town, then they deserve pretty much what they get at that point. But it gives us a little bit more ability to control it a little bit better. But I need to take some steps with the county first to find out, get some background information.
I appreciate it. And do we know for sure that that's a county road? Typically a road that's named highway belongs to the state.
I think the highway designation, it's old highway,
right.
99, that was given over. I know that was given over to the county a long time ago when the regular Highway 99 came into effect. Some of my other thoughts on that are that maybe I should do a speed study at the transition point so that we actually are talking about what are the actual speeds of cars coming into the city limits in that residential area, so that we're not guessing. We actually know what the heck we're talking about. So I'll put that on the list. And I know that we're doing one already for Denali. That's underway. I pick up the tubes tomorrow. And then I have the other one for Lad Hill scheduled for August. But maybe I'll switch that one out for this one, because this one is more in tune with what appears to be more of a severe case, including the school, and we can swap those out, and I can get this done, traffic counts for that in, say, August.
I like that, doing this over Lad, because you do have that stop sign at Land and Sunset.
Yeah, the stop sign's there, the traffic signage of speed is already established. All we would be doing is confirming whether any of that stuff is working. And that's a behavioral thing. You know, if the police officers had all the time in the world, they could sit there and just pull people over left and right who are speeding, and they, you know, be fully, you know, up to being ticketed for violations, because it's clearly signed all the way down through Lad Hill. I think that old Highway 99, because of the variance, you know, there is no signage there. We need some background data in which to basically make sound decisions about what we want. And that's going to help us also from the standpoint of understanding what the conditions really are. So I would offer that up.
So Jason, I'll try and put it in a motion that makes sense this time. That Bob investigate with the county what this section of road is designated at for speed, and then at his next available time to get the tubes out and get some data, and then report back.
So specifically, if I could append that speed data, as well as a warrant analysis for stop signs at the intersection of Crooked River Lane and Old Highway 99.
I'll accept that.
Okay.
I'd second that.
Okay, any discussion? This doesn't need to be part of the amendment, but Bob, if you do this and you find that there is a verified speed issue, I'd welcome any suggestions that you or staff might have for, if you have suggestions for what might be appropriate method of speed control here.
I'm pretty sure that after I do the analysis, I'll give you the rundown of what the speeds are, but also what I would recommend in the way of a combination of control items that we could put out there, ranging from whatever is necessary for signage, but also if we have to do some capital improvement that would help restrict or at least control traffic a little bit more by giving them a visual cue that they are in a reduced speed area. So
that'd be great.
Yeah, that'll be part of it. That will be part of it.
Thank you.
Bob, maybe this is a philosophical thing for me, but a stop sign for me, and I have, decent eyes. I mean, I can see, 100 yards up, and I can make out a stop sign. And I pay attention to that. That slows me down. And I can also see, speed signs. That slows me down too. But I pay a hell of a lot more attention to a stop sign. So arrest me. But that was a joke. But yeah, I pay more attention to a stop sign. It controls my speed.
All right, any more discussion? Oh, you got something, Mike?
Just a smart ass comment. I was going to say, come on, Bob, you know we want big speed bumps. Come on.
I'm trying to figure out if it's 45, how far you launch with the different designs.
There's only one real design. It's just a different layout for each design. You know, I think you need, this committee in particular does need to have, who is the doctor? I have a hard time.
We've I can't say it.
Taglablu.
Yeah. No
We know who you
disrespect.
mean.
It's Dr. Takalu. There you go. We really need to have him come in because he does a good job of telling you why stop signs aren't used as speed control. And I'll put a synopsis on it very quickly, is that if you have stop signs everywhere to try and control speeding, they're going to be ignored completely. And then you're going to have two problems. You're going to have speeding, and you're going to have people not stopping when they should stop. What we need to do, and it's always a question of how do you control people's driving behavior? You can't engineer your way out of somebody who wants to really speed. There's just no two ways about it. And I can tell you right now that I was sort of aghast, I would say about 2 months ago, with the roundabout down at Langer Farms in Century. I saw a high school kid, what I assumed to be a high school kid, maybe an early college age school kid, basically doing drifting through the roundabout. He wasn't trying to get anywhere. It just was a convenient thing. And it was perfect for him to take his little high-powered whatever and just make donuts all the way around that circle. And I'm going, I can't design to stop that. There's absolutely nothing I can do to stop somebody who's intent on doing that. So when I say that we don't use stop signs to control speeding, it's because if we try to do that, we've taken away the ability of the stop sign to control people's driving behavior for pedestrian crossings. And it could be exacerbated because you've added the speed component into it. So we need to be careful with it. And people need to understand that, like T intersections, residential areas with T intersections, you basically, the through road has the right of way. The person coming up on the T intersection road is supposed to stop. That's Oregon law. And like with Denali, we got people blowing through there when they should really be stopping. And putting up a stop sign, I'm not sure that's actually going to change their driving habit. It gives the police officer more legal right to take them over and say, you just blew through a stop sign and you did it in a hazardous way, and just keep throwing the stuff at them. Well, maybe that's one way of getting their attention. But until you change their driving habits, that's a public thing. I don't know how to go around doing that. I'd love to be able to do that, but if I did that, it would be like they do in Holland with the barriers that come out of the concrete, and basically, you want to go through this stop sign without stopping, you're going to be hitting a bollard that comes up. It's just going to pop out of the ground, and that's it. You go over the speed limit by 5 miles an hour, the bollard comes up, and you hit the bollard. I don't think we want to do that. I've seen those in Europe where they do it on bus lanes because they don't want people driving down the bus lanes as a way of avoiding the traffic signals, because the buses don't have to stop. They got long dedicated corridors. I'm not sure how we can do that here. I think that the tool set that you've been given is an attempt to try and find ways that we can incorporate safe methods of modifying driver behavior while still maintaining the appropriate use of signage for intersections and ped crossings as a separate item. So there's my homily on this thing. I do the best I can with it, but I think Dr. Takalu would actually provide you with a lot more background data. And I've listened through 2 or 3 of his seminars already. It's always the same seminar. It's the long technical one, but I think it is well worth it.
Thanks, Bob. We talked last time about once we be able to meet in person again, trying to set something up with them so we could do it in person.
Yeah, I think that's highly advisable.
So
I'm going to belabor the point, but I'm going to say it again. Speed bumps and stop signs, it's pretty good deterrent, I would say.
all right, so we got a motion on the table. It's been seconded. Let's vote on this. Does anybody need the motion repeated? Are we good? Good, because I don't know if I can get it right this time. So, all right, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
And all opposed? Any opposed? None. All right. Let's move on to the next one. We've got 2021-006, no parking zone between Hostler Way and YMCA on Woodhaven.
So this one, just some background on this one. We've had quite a few, I guess you could say, complaints about the visibility there, especially pulling out of the Y. There's a lot of parked vehicles between those 2 intersections there. The majority of them are coming from the apartments off of Forest Creek there, off 99. There's a walking path. That's what we've been told, and they just store their cars or park their cars there. And if you drive down Woodhaven, both sides of the street are pretty packed most evenings.
And the tree canopy, in the summertime, you drive down and it's dark.
I just have a comment there. They said from Hostler Way to the entrance to the Y. Hostler Way comes out to Woodhaven at 2 places. I'm assuming they mean the one that is the most southerly, the closest to the Y, not all the way up Woodhaven to that second intersection.
Yeah, that's how I'm reading it. The closest one right before you start going down the hill there.
So I struggled when I looked at this one for a while, tried to figure out, tried to fully understand the issue. And I think I can understand the issue of visibility for turning movements at the intersection of Hostler and Woodhaven. And I think I can understand the issue of turning, visibility for turning movements at the YMCA driveway in Woodhaven. But that seems like a really long stretch between those 2 intersections, two accesses to eliminate parking. And I guess I don't fully understand the issue between the 2.
What it looks like he's saying is that, or at least the one complainant, is that there's only room for 1 car on Woodhaven between those 2 access points when there's cars parked on both sides of the road.
Yeah, without that particular part of it, my first thought was, well, what about just saying no parking a certain number of feet from the Y driveway and from the Hostler Woodhaven? But when I realized that he was saying that you still would have that narrowed spot with cars on both sides, And it's that way on a lot of streets where there's parking on both sides of the road, but that particular street gets a lot more traffic than the other ones that I'm thinking of.
So the other thing is, this is a perfect example, I think, of kind of back to what Bob was talking about earlier. This is a really good example of natural traffic calming. It looks like there's enough width there, and we could ask Bob or city to go out and verify that the width is sufficient for parking on both sides and two-way travel. But you have to slow down to do it, and so you have to slow down. So you get rid of parking there, the next complaint we're going to get is people are speeding on Sherwood Boulevard. Put in some speed bumps. So I'd like to focus, I guess, on potential sight distance issues, visibility for those two locations where people are turning, and then maybe there's the path that crosses there. It seems reasonable to maybe consider some areas of no parking to provide safer turning movements for vehicles and crossing for pedestrians. But I don't know about the issue of enough width for. I guess maybe I would support having staff just check the width of the road to make sure it is sufficient for parking on both sides.
And this is Bob again. I think that's a wise recommendation is to let staff, like I briefly looked at it, and I sort of have an idea of what I would look at in going out to actually make measurements and figure out what the conditions are, and if there can be improvements made without wholesale elimination of parking. But like I said, I just didn't have time to go out and do it at this point in time. I think that I could get to that by the next meeting and have something to offer you that would say, okay, here's how Woodhaven is actually built out to allow parking on both sides plus 2 lanes. However, it's a corner, and if people are parking on a corner, they're never really uptight to the corner. They're always a little bit away, and it reduces. We could look at all the factors, and maybe there's a way of saying, okay, for sight distance at ped crossings, we'll identify those. Let's see how, if it needs restrictions on parking, we start with those because that's safety, number one, around peds. And we know peds are going to lose an argument with a car when it comes down to it. And then we can check to see whether there is a issue for our emergency vehicles. That'd be the second item. And then we'll see how speeding comes into it as the third item that we can check, and whether reduction of parking along any section of that would basically create a condition of increased speed potentially, and what would we do to sort of identify that and try and get people to slow down if we did limit parking. I think Jason's right that, a narrow section does slow people down. Nobody wants to hit anybody else's car, and they don't want to hit their own car against somebody else. So it's a natural thing, but if we can still maintain that with limited impact to parking and make it safer, I think, let us give us a chance at that apple before making a decision about it.
Chris, you got your hand up?
Yeah, and looking at the street view, because of the dip, and at this time of the year when the trees have foliage on them, that does limit sight distance because of the size of the trees now and as they're into the road. So maybe some foliage work, but this should be 25 anyway. So that shouldn't be as big an issue. But if there's cars parked right up next to the intersection, that just exacerbates the sight distance back in the neighborhood before you get to that greenway. So I totally think that we should ask Bob to do his assessment of the situation and report back.
Dorian?
So looking at it, the best I could tell on Google Maps, the width of the street is going to average between 35 and 40 feet curb to curb there. Basically from the entrance to the Y up to Hosler. So just wanted to add that in.
Tony?
Yeah, the perception looking toward the Y from the top of Hosler is that it narrows. And if you have, two cars parked on both sides of Woodhaven, the perception is that it narrows. So, yeah, maybe just having parking on one side, if that warrants it, I think that would be compromise. And just
All right. Tony?
I'm good. Thank you.
Any more discussion? Anybody want a motion?
Mike does.
I will make the motion that Bob and his crew check out the situation there. Make sure, one, that the road is wide enough to handle parking on both sides, plus two vehicles going up the middle, and how that relates to any possibility of reducing parking along Woodhaven Drive.
Second.
All right. Discussions? All right, let's take a vote. All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Deal. Okay, so that does it for business. So go on to citizen or committee comments. Looks like that's next. This is your chance to have the hot mic if you want it. Anybody have anything they wanted to share? Mike?
Yeah, this is actually both Chris and Chris, I'll speak for you here. Correct me if I'm incorrect, but our last meeting on this committee, we rotate off. You'll have two new members from the Police Advisory Board Committee coming in next time. But I wanted to thank everybody. This committee actually has been fascinating for me, and quite honestly, my schedule were not picking up quite a bit. I would have signed on for a second term. But I particularly wanted to thank Bob, because I think Bob has shown, one, a great deal of patience, and has really done a whole lot of educating for all of us, just in terms of the realities of traffic control. So Bob, thank you. And thanks to all of you guys. I really enjoyed being part of this.
Thanks, Mike. Appreciate your participation also. Chris?
Yeah, I just want to echo what Mike said. And when on my tenure on the police advisory, speed and those sorts of things have been hot topics. And I know that the city council was getting a lot of requests for solving these issues. And that's why they came to the police advisory for our input, and based on staff help with the chief and others, we followed the model that Newburgh and some of the other cities do in creating this committee. And the Police Advisory Board has had some challenges and helped solve things and give advice to the chief and the city council. But in the little over a year that I've been on this, we've handled a lot of stuff and solved a lot of issues. And I feel really good about being part of that. So I want to, like Mike said, thank everybody for participating, and it's been fun, and I wish you luck. And you got two great members that are gonna from the police advisory board that are going to join you next month. So thanks.
Thanks, Chris. Appreciate it. Tony?
Yeah, I just have a suggestion. Once we get more citizens' concerns, that maybe we should assign a specific concern to a committee member so that they can really go in depth on that problem. I know we all have gone out to, concerned places, but if that one person makes a real detailed, concerned study and then reports back to the safety committee, I think that might also help. Oh, and I have to say, the reason for my 2 absences, I was taking a class, German class, and if I missed those, I would not be able to habla German. I still can't, but that's my sorry excuse.
All right. Thanks, Tony. Mike, did you have something still, or you're just holding your hand up?
I do.
Oh, Chris.
I was going to ask Captain, with the extra patrolling Memorial Weekend, was it fruitful or any kind of report?
I haven't got the numbers yet. I can next month report back. I didn't hear if there was, I could pretty much guarantee it wasn't too busy based on what I looked at, but I don't have the specific numbers.
That's a good thing.
Yes.
It wasn't. Thanks.
Tony, you good? I can't remember if you put your hand back up or back down there. All right. Are there any? Is there any citizen comment today?
No, we don't have any citizen comments tonight.
All right. Well, with that, if there's nothing else anybody has to share or discuss, we will adjourn the meeting.